figured because of,
I had to turn it off because my children, the first hour.
yeah, the children being whole ass juniors.
Mm-hmm. It's a great way to put it.
For what? What? Huh? I'm so confused.
Whenever you are ready.
Okay.
1 o'clock.
John F. Kennedy once said, "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all." Meaning that when voting, every vote counts, and we expect our voters to be able to make an adequate decision on who they're voting for. When it comes to voting, I do not believe it should be lowered by any means. Why do I say that? Well, we have multiple laws explaining why minors under 18 cannot be held accountable for their actions. For example, when ruling that juvenile offenders cannot, with reliability, be classified among the worst offenders, the court found it significant that juveniles are vulnerable to influence and susceptible to immature and irresponsible behavior. In light of juveniles' diminished capability, neither retribution nor deterrence provides adequate justice for imposing the death penalty. That was a statement taken from a Supreme Court leader, said retribution is not proportional. The law's most severe penalty is imposed by one whose capability is blameless, or worthiness is diminished to a substantial degree by reason of youth and maturity. So, with that knowledge, minors are not only incapable of making that decision and being held to that decision of voting, but also it is just plain out a bad idea. That's it.
Ready?
Yes.
On the clock.
First off, I'd like to define my terms. Habitual, done or doing constantly or as a habit. Habit, regular tendency or practice. Politician, person who is professionally involved in politics. Disenfranchisement, depriving someone of the right to vote. My contention, a voter turnout may rise over time if the voting age is lowered to 16. According to vote16usa.org, lowering the voting age can lead to a long-term increase in voter turnout, bringing more young people in touch with their government, maybe even pushing the government to better serve its people. Vote 16 USA also says that voting is a habitual, meaning that a person who votes in the first election they are eligible in to vote is likely to continue voting consistently, while someone who takes several years to pick up the habit to vote will take more time to vote and pick up the habit. According to youthrights.org, impact of turnout for 16-year-olds will increase because they will establish new voters when they are less likely to move as a result of still being in high school and are not yet attending a college or leaving their families. They tend to have stronger roots in their community, often living in the same area for many years, and already have an established connection to their school, friends, family, and other parts of the community. Encouraging new voters at a young age will increase the turnout rate as the population gets older. Younger people who vote were more likely to influence the voter turnout of their parents. YouthRights.org quotes, "Young people have a right to be heard and have their interests taken seriously. However, by disenfranchising young people, society tells us that they do not have anything of value to add to the political conversation in our society. It also gives politicians permission to ignore our interest, as people under 18 have no way to hold their representatives accountable. By letting 16-year-olds start voting at a younger age, they are more likely to want to make just as much of an impact in the government as 18-year-olds or older."
Does anyone want planning time? Yes, no?
Minute.
1 minute of planning time? On the clock.
I don't know, you have your first speech, right? So you have what you can say, at least a little bit. I don't know, also.
30 seconds.
And also look at other, to see if they also
15 seconds. Time. Debaters ready for cross? And on the clock.
For that first thing you said about juveniles, where did you get your source from?
For juveniles, it was from the, Nolo.com, the legal encyclopedia on why juveniles are tried as adults, or cannot be tried as adults, and the death penalty. So, let's see, you said that lowering the voting age would increase the turnout, and how so?
Well, when you're 18, most of the time, there's people obviously serving in the military, there's people in college, there's people work. Main amount of that, they just don't have time. In high school, you have more time, but not. I mean, yes, you have your 16-year-olds that can work and such that won't have as much time, but you still have more time when you're younger to vote than you do, especially since you have a full-time job when you get older.
You can take time off to go and vote,
Yes.
so it's an annual thing, right? Or we're not, you vote once, you don't really need that much time, so, but having more time does not mean that it's gonna increase the voter turnout at all. Let's see, other thing. So, and I guess, what rights do young people have when it comes to voting? Because you say that they have a right to be heard, and I understand that, but, I mean, there's other ways, like we have elected officials, right?
Yes.
Governors that we can talk to. So I guess, what are some other reasons? I can't really see.
So, in Maryland, there's 4 towns that have successfully lowered their voting age to 16, and internationally, more than 25 countries have a voting age lower than 18. So obviously, something has been done to change the voting age down, lower it.
And how did that impact their society? Was it beneficial? Did it increase turnout? Did it decrease? Were there more people swaying to one political party more than the other?
No.
Do you have demographics on that? On the age of voting and what their likely to
And this was
go
in
into?
municipal elections, so kind of more in their towns, so.
So you're saying that it
But
should be
it's
lower?
still government officials that they are elected, doesn't mean.
Okay, government officials, but I'm saying, what is the outcome? Like, yes, they've changed it, I understand that, but why should, I mean, there's a lot of other things that countries do that we don't do, like free speech, or sorry, that we do that other countries don't do, and vice versa.
That's your time. Anyone want planning time? All right, next speaker ready? On the clock.
Alright. When you lack the interest in the case, the job will very likely lack the skill, diligence, and the performance. Abraham Lincoln. Most teens feel that the things they've done in school aren't connected with their daily life or will not have anything to do with their daily life skills, or tend not to participate or are interested in politics. Contention. Young teens under the age of 18 lack motivation and the ability to do the required diligence to elect quality officials. Defining diligence, careful and persistent work or effort. Defining a capable, relevant or appropriate. According to NCBI.gov, it has been seen as a way to ensure that the interests of young citizens are represented in the political system. Teens who attend high school do not know who their U.S. Senator is or how to amend the Constitution. If a student has a negative attitude towards school or lack motivation to go to school, this will cause a bad effect towards school attendance. How will students be able to learn anything if they aren't hardly attending school? How will they be able to even take anything serious if they aren't putting effort towards their education? Let's look at some things that deal with less diligence than voting and see how kids are doing with those tasks. A study shows that students' attitudes towards class vary widely from "I never miss school" to "it's worthless," with most responses falling somewhere in between. Most students reported they try to attend class and usually do from missing time to time. According to Brookings Edu, one conversation estimated that 10% of students miss at least 10% of school days each year. On top of that, being conducted as absence for a full day, many students skip classes even when they are officially in school. If students are missing class, what makes you think that they will actually be able to attend and go out and vote?
Next speaker ready? On the clock.
First off, I'm gonna start with my contention. My contention is that if 17 and 16-year-olds have to pay taxes slash work and drive, they should be able to have the right to vote. As countries around the world have extended voting rights to 16-year-olds, research has found that that lowering the voting age increases youth voter oh my gosh. Furthermore, studies have found that 16-year-olds hold the equivalent levels of civic competence to 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds are legally permitted to work, drive, and also pay federal income taxes. They're contributing members of our society, and I believe that is right and fair to allow them to vote in our elections. I'm proud to honor the stand of our nation's young people in introducing this legislation and hope my colleagues in the House support it. That is by Nellie Behadcha. She's in our legislative. The National Youth Rights Association strongly supports her message as for that we should allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. Increased voting, obviously. India actually has one of the largest number of voters compared to any other democratic country, and encourages youth to go out in public life, be a part of something, have something to speak for, have something to be the change of. For America, the drive to lower even from 21 to 18 really grew across the country anyway from the 1960s because of the military draft during the Vietnam War. And that's it.
Anyone want planning time?
30 seconds.
Thirty seconds on the clock. $15 seconds. Time. Ready for cross? On the clock.
What is your contention?
My condition. Young teens under the age of 18 lack motivation and the ability to do the required diligence to elect quality officials. How do you know that most 16-year-olds are able or capable to start joining
Well, I mean,
on their own?
all of our states have different ages, but for the most part, it is indeed 16, 17 years old, even 15 in some states. But when you're bringing up less diligent things, what do you mean by that? Like you were saying in your speech up here that we need to focus on less diligent things. What do you mean by that?
Like more so of when it comes to voting, the voting age,
So you're saying
like
that's
their
not
knowledge.
important?
No, like
Or
why did you include the war?
include what, sorry?
The war.
The war, because that was a big reason on why it decreased in the first place. And America decided just because we need more people to fight for our country, then we can lower the voting age. Where are your sources from?
Which one?
Like, when you said less diligence?
NCBI though.
That's all I got to.
Anyone want planning time?
Come on, use your time.
Okay. First speaker ready for summary?
Dear God.
2 minutes.
I know that I didn't make this clear in my first speech. My contention is the younger the voter, the easier the voter can be manipulated. Now, we've seen time and time again, when deciding other laws, minors, meaning under the age, citizens under the age of 18, cannot be held accountable for their actions. If they can't be held accountable for their actions, then why are they allowed to make decisions that impact the rest of others' lives? It's simply not fair and does not make any logical sense. And I keep going back to the quote by JFK: "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all." That means that it doesn't just affect you as an individual, but also everyone around you. So, voting age should not be lowered by any means. Thank you.
Next, somebody ready?
First off, my partner's contention is that 17 to 16-year-olds have to pay taxes, drive, and work. They should have the right to vote. As he said, research has found that lowering the voting age increases youth voter participation. Furthermore, studies have found that 16-year-olds hold equivalent levels of civic competence to 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and are legally permitted to work, drive, and they also pay federal income taxes. My contention: voter turnout may rise over time if the voting age is lowered to 16. There's so much good impact a 16-year-old can have on voting, just as much as someone who is 18 years old. Establishing new voters, especially at a young age, because they are more likely to get in a habit of voting more often. Just pick us to win because of the many benefits of voting at a young age, including an increase in voter turnout over the years. Another reason that we should lower the voting age is youth are affected by politicians just as much as anyone else. They also have work with limits on hours and pay taxes on their income, can drive in most states, and sometimes we try to in adult courts. 16-year-olds deserve the right to vote on issues affecting them on a local level. Voting is the most reliable way for someone who is an ordinary citizen to vote and influence the government.
Anyone want planning time?
Yeah, how much time do we have?
You still have 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Yeah, let me get a minute.
All right. 1 minute planning time on the clock.
So she said that there was like way too many people.
Thirty seconds. Fifteen seconds. Time. Debaters ready for Grand Cross. 3 minutes on the clock.
Let me
Khai, why are you bringing a president into this? John F. Kennedy, you brought John F. Kennedy up. Why'd you bring John F. Kennedy up? Isn't he dead and doesn't really have the comprehension of
It's
what
one
we
of the
know now?
world leaders that pushed for the importance of educated voting. That is highlighted in his speech, and I know that I didn't.
But does he know us now? Like, does he understand that, you know, we developed as a country and that, I mean, he doesn't really have a word in anything now, does he?
You can make the same argument for laws now.
Yeah, but what do laws have to do with voting?
Laws like are found, so like laws as a concept,
We can
right?
change that
Yeah,
as a younger
amendments.
youth. Exactly, yeah, we can change it as a younger youth, as a
And
16-year-old.
my argument is we should not amend that. should be,
Why'd you bring your contention up in your summary?
because, well, I didn't make it clear in my first statement, so I wanted to make sure everyone caught it. Also, so you want the voting age to be lowered to what age?
16 or 17.
16 or 17. You brought up one of the reasons is because they can pay taxes. 15-year-olds can pay taxes. Is there any difference between a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old?
As I stated in my speech up here, you can get your license at 15, 16, or 17 depending on the state. So it all depends what state you live in. So, I mean, it could be 15 if your governor
Well, yeah.
or leader of that state would like to do 15, or 16, or 17.
The average age is 16 in most states.
But what is the psychological, like, how competent do you have to be to vote?
What do you mean by that?
So like, do 15, 16, 17-year-olds actually have the ability to vote?
I mean, most schools, as you can tell, as being a senior, we have POD, and once we get to learning how to vote and all that in school, then pretty sure most schools will take you out and do and understand what voting is.
Okay, so what, alright, go ahead.
Jordan, what were your main, like, what was your main evidence connecting 16-year-olds most likely to being able to vote?
Was that when I was reading my
Summary. Yeah.
That would be my USA.org, just from that.
So then I guess my question is, right back to, are they actually capable of, you know, make this decision-making process of voting? Because this is a very serious thing.
So what's really the big difference between an 18 and 16-year-old then? What makes you guys want 18 over 16?
18 and 16-year-olds.
Is there really that much of a difference between?
2 years is really not. Even when, if we wanted 17, we just wanted a lower base of than 18 years old, then what's the difference between a 2-year or not even a year gap when you turn that age?
That's your time. Anyone want planning time?
Last thing. How much you have? A minute?
You have 30 seconds left. Y'all have 1 minute left.
We use our 30 seconds to.
If they're using theirs, you should also use theirs.
Okay.
1 minute planning time on the clock.
Is this something you have? There's no mute, right? Is it?
Yeah. Which one?
So I would make a point.
30 seconds.
Just like, okay.
15 seconds. Time.
Wait, so we can't use our 30 seconds right now, or can we?
No, you cannot. They're using their minute. You should also be using, so you would have used a minute of planning time right now, which would have eaten up your 30 seconds. So basically, everybody gets 2 minutes no matter what, because when they're planning, you should also be planning. But you don't get to use your time in addition to their time.
I know it's not us. It's them first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Affirmative, yeah.
Sorry about that clock malfunction. Final focus speakers ready?
It's team one speakers here. We use team one.
Yes, it's y'all.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Ready? 2 minutes on the clock.
Alright, my opponent stated that the laws, asked, what would the laws have to do with anything with voting? Well, a lot, that's the whole point of basically voting. And as known, the voting age in America is 18 and older. And the reason stated that our team should win is because we gave our evidence and pushing towards the younger generation to choose our next official elected wouldn't be a great idea, because as I said before, if they can hardly attend class and aren't able to comprehend information of laws, how would that impact voting?
Ready? 2 minutes on the clock.
As me and my partner have stated, both of our contentions basically equal out that 17 and 16-year-olds or 15 pay taxes, drive, and work. They should have the right to vote. As they stated, it's not less diligence, so apparently it's not that important for voting at all. It increases voting when we add the younger generation into it. Another reason is that we are also affected by local politicians, so we have a voice just as much as your 80-year-old grandpa. In most states and most countries already have their age lower, and we don't really hear their issues about it, so apparently it's working awfully good for them. India, as I said, has the largest number of it, and India has who they want, and their voices are heard. We gotta be the change, so what old people think should be the change, couldn't be the change, shouldn't be the change, and it's obviously the better route for us to go for 16, 17, or 15-year-olds to vote, because we already have dropped the age once just for a war. We should drop it for our voices to be heard.
Judges, do you have any questions that you need clarified? Remember, you can only ask questions to clarify things that you have heard in the debate, and debaters, when you're answering that question, you can only answer in a clarifying manner. Judge, do you have anything?
What was your contention?
My contention was the younger the voter, the easier the voter can be manipulated.
No other questions from the judges? All right, debaters in the hallway with me. Judges, you can confer and decide on who your winner is.